For my Jackdaws collection, I chose to go with the theme of mediums. I think the art style is a very big part of the story, and that's why I curated my collection to focus more on the art style and the process of that. So to start with my first two items, it's going to be an iPad and an Apple Pencil. Digital media has been a pathway that has allowed artists to compress all the mediums that we've had access to for generations into a tablet. Technology and software has opened up a gateway for illustrators to be able to create new things with one device. My third choice is a camera. This is just a cheap little instant camera, but I think the usage of pictures and videos with books and audiobooks and video books is kind of an underrated medium. Usually when we think of pictures and the usage of it in children's literature, it's associated with nonfiction books, and being able to see it in the book Frida, for example, it showed me that using pictures and props can really help aid storytelling in the same way that illustration does. And I think that's great. My fourth option are alcohol markers. I think markers are one of my more favored mediums. It was really nice to see the usage of markers in books and illustrations, especially alcohol markers. The cool thing about alcohol markers is that you are able to blend and create a much more uniform coloring compared to regular like Crayola or cheaper school markers that leave the streaks behind. My fourth option that I chose are the pencil and graphite, just because they are softer mediums. I chose these because they are the building blocks of any art. Any sort of starting point, any sort of sketching is often with softer, erasable mediums. So my fourth and fifth options coincide because there is a lot of foundational work involved in illustrating these books, and a lot of the books I chose have the use of tangible mediums compared to digital ones. So I think it's important to talk about that because a lot of the books on my list have those tangible mediums, and there's a lot of work that goes into those books. Okay, for my sixth medium, I chose ink. So compared to other mediums, it's a lot more bold and a lot darker and a lot more permanent when it comes to illustrating. When you look at an ink illustration, you can see the finer details, and you can also spot smaller mistakes that are within the picture. It helps you understand that mistakes are okay and that mistakes are going to happen. My seventh item is a paintbrush. I think it's a very important tool, especially since most stories use paint as their medium. The paintbrush helps the process of tying the tone of the story with the tone of the illustrations. It really goes to show how much effort is being used in the process of making these illustrations, and I think this is a very important tool. The last part of my collection is a pair of scissors, because surprisingly, I've read a decent amount of books that have used collaging as their medium of illustration. There is a lot that goes into collaging. It's a very intense art form because you're collecting and then distributing. There's a lot of work that goes into these tangible mediums, and collaging is definitely one of the more extensive processes of illustration. These stories would be a lot different if we didn't have these pictures with them. They would be a lot different if they were different mediums, if they were all videos, if they were all pictures, if they were all paint. The diversity is what makes our brains have these different stories stand out. Doing this project and looking at all of the different books really made me understand the efforts and the hard work that goes into illustrating, because they are doing 32 pictures on top of the drafts, on top of all the sketches that were possibly made and all the ideas, and it was made into a book for a child to enjoy. and for students to enjoy, and I think that's a great thing.